Hello, it's Desiree Alexander, aka Educator Alexander, and welcome to Successful School Leadership through the PSEL. What is PSEL, you may be asking? Well, it's the Professional Standards for Educational Leaders 2015, and they were completed and released by the NPBEA. What is NPBEA, you may be asking? That is the National Policy Board for Educational Administration, and these are the organizations that make up that board. They created the PSEL for 2015, and it replaced the ISLIC standards. So this is the visual for the 10 standards that we are about to go through, and what we're going to do is we're going to take these 10 standards, look at them, analyze them, and then break them down into 3 practical steps that an educational leader can actually do on their campus to start fulfilling these 10 standards. So, like I said, these standards were updated from the ISLIC standards in 2008. If you would like to see the difference between the 2 standards and compare them, you can definitely go to my website, educatoralexander.com, and if you go to presentations, leader, ISLIC standards through the PSEL, you have access to this PowerPoint and other resources. You can actually click on this link and see the difference between the 2. So we're going to go ahead and get started with Standard 1. Standard 1, the keywords are all about mission, vision, and core values. That's actually the title of the standard. Is going to be in yellow, but it's actually the keywords, which I really like. I like that the PSEL standards actually summarize it and then it tells you what it is. So standard 1 is all about mission, vision, and core values. A big part of this is shared mission, vision, and core values. So an effective educational leader develops, advocates, and enacts a shared mission, vision, and core values of high quality education and academic success and well-being of each student. So it's not just the mission, vision, and core values that you want to see as a leader, but it's the shared mission, vision, and core values. So it's getting your stakeholders, getting your teachers, getting your students all involved in not only developing them, but advocating for them, pushing them, implementing them, and enacting them. The major question for this one is, as a school leader, how do you develop and facilitate the implementation of a shared mission, vision, and core value? I think it's easy to come up with them sometimes, especially if we come up with really fluffy mission, visions, and values that don't they don't really get to the core of my campus. I just want to put something on the wall. It's really easy to come up with that. But when you go to implement it, and you start to learn how fluffy it really is, that it doesn't really have any actionable actions that you can actually do to achieve that. So asking yourself this question before you guys get started is really, really important. So some dispositions with this standard: effective leaders develop an educational mission for the school to promote the academic success and well-being of each student. And I'm not going to sit here and read all of this to you, but how do you collaborate with your school and the community? And of course, you want to use that data to promote the school vision and develop the school vision. How do you articulate, advocate, and cultivate the core values of the school? Again, we don't want fluffiness. We really want you to look at your school and say, how can we support our students? How can we support equity? How can we have those high expectations? That's going to look different per campus. Also, strategically develop, implement, and evaluate actions. That's the big word. Again, it's not just fluff. the actions for the vision of the school. Your mission should lead to your vision. Your core values should lead to your mission. So your core values are going to be why are we here? What do we believe at this school? That's your core values. And your core values should, if you're doing it right, your core values should lead to your mission. Your mission is, what are we doing right now? What is our mission? It should be relevant. It should be action oriented. It should, make me want to move and make me want to do something. If I know why I'm here, if I know what my mission is, I can have that laser focus to get it done by any means necessary. So what is our mission at this school? What are we doing here? And that should influence your vision. Your vision is, where do you want to be in 5 years? And not fluffy. We want to create this. And where do we honestly want to be on this campus in 5 years? It may be, I just want to make sure that we're all on grade level in 5 years. It needs to be specific. It needs to be actionable. Where do we want to be in 5 years? And now you can see with that explanation how your mission is going to lead to your vision and how your core values influences your mission. So it just plays hand in hand. So what are 3 real world examples that you can do right now to start doing this? One thing is, you want to verify that all your goals in your vision, mission, and core values are SMART goals. SMART goals are specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic, and timely. So you want to make sure that your goals are actually SMART goals. So what that means is, going to take that mission and vision and core values off the wall and make sure that they're not fluffy. Make sure that I can actually measure what we're doing. I can actually put action to what we're doing. And that is realistic. Another thing you can do is create that committee of stakeholders. Make sure that you have that committee, that when you need to do something like this, you have your go-to people. And remember, a stakeholder is anyone that has a stake in that school. So it will be your teachers, it can be students, it can be community members, it can be parents, it can be cafeteria workers, whoever has a stake in that school. Of course, you're going to, depending on the committee, you're going to put people on there that make sense. Another thing, actionable step that you can take is to create action steps to implement these things, your mission, your vision, and your core values. Not just, hey, we have it, it's awesome. Oh, I love it. I'll put it on the wall. I'll make it all fancy. We say it on the intercom. What are the action steps? So now that I have my vision, my mission, and my goal, what are we going to do to get there? It's great to have a mission, but I need some action steps to implement that mission. So what are those action steps? And of course, that's going to update and change, maybe daily, but definitely weekly. And of course, on a longer scale. So what are those action steps? Every decision you make on that campus should be influenced by your core values, mission, and vision. If you make a decision and it has nothing to do with any of those 3, why are you making that decision? Moving on to Standard 2. Standard 2 is all about ethics and professional norms. Effective educational leaders act ethically and according to professional norms to promote each student's academic success and well-being. All of these are going to be for students' academic success and well-being, is always going to be in there. So how does the educational leader act ethically and according to professional norms? The question we should ask ourselves is, as a school leader, what processes do you use to encourage individuals in the organization to act in an ethical manner and practice principles of fair process? So what are you doing to encourage that? I'll tell you, just point blank, the way to teach ethics is to be ethical. The way to teach ethics is to model ethics. So what are you doing? What processes are in place to make sure that everyone on your campus is seeing your ethical behavior and what else may be done for them to know that they need to act ethically. So, some dispositions. Effective leaders, of course, act ethically and professionally in everything that they do. When we talk about relationships and building relationships with your staff and your faculty, just remember, as an educational leader, those relationships really should not be personal. That's a professional relationship. Sometimes when you become an educational leader on a campus where you were a teacher, it can have really nice benefits, but it can also have drawbacks. The benefits can be, of course, you already know the campus, they know you, blah blah blah, but the drawbacks can be, yeah, I can't do the same stuff that I could do with you when I was a teacher. I can't have those same conversations. I can't, go out for drinks every Friday. That's not my role anymore. And sometimes it can seem what do I want to say? Hypocritical to teachers that, oh, now you think you're better than us and things like that. But you're going to have those hard conversations that, again, you are building relationships, but they have to remain professional. You are in a different role as a leader. And of course, you want to always have transparency in what you're doing. If someone asks you a question, you should be able to answer it, even if the answer is, I cannot speak on that right now because it's an ongoing investigation or something like that. You still want to be as transparent as possible. Transparency allows people to see that you're not hiding anything. And if you're doing it, if you are ethical and you're treating people with fairness, it should be no problem to be transparent. Again, even if it's something that you cannot answer fully, you can still give an answer to questions. And of course, placing children at the center of education. They are why we are there. Promoting individual freedom, responsibility. A big part of ethical behavior is communication. Making sure that not only what you want to do is communicated, but why we are doing it is communicated. And making sure that not just you, but other people have leadership positions. Other people are making the decisions with you. That is not a dictatorship. That everything is transparent and everything is moral. So 3 real world actions that you can take today to start leading this standard is to create professional development opportunities, to review and eliminate negative assumptions. And that's not just for you, but it's also for your staff. Creating those opportunities where we can sit and we can look at, hey, what is not ethical on this campus? Why is it not ethical? Remember that one of the hardest things as a leader is perception is reality. So if you're sitting there and saying, well, no, I am transparent, I am ethical, but no one sees it that way, perception is reality. So it's very, very hard as a leader, but creating those opportunities to discuss and eliminate those negative assumptions helps. Research the most effective way to communicate with your staff. All staffs are going to be different. So if you know your staff, doesn't check email, then we need to have another way to communicate. Unfortunately, until you can get them all on the habit of checking email. I've been at campuses where it was all or nothing, and people just had to kind of float, and they did, so it just depends. But we had that type of staff, so it just depends on your staff. But finding the most effective way to make sure your staff is communicated with is very crucial. And creating an ethics committee of adults and students, so they can kind of be your check, hey, are we being ethical on this campus? Are all students being not punished, but reprimanded in the same way, things like that. So having that committee that can be a check of what's really happening on campus is also a very real world action that you can take. Standard 3 is all about equity and cultural responsiveness, which should hopefully be a really crucial thing at every single school, no matter what your makeup is at the school. And equity and cultural responsiveness, the effective educational leader strives for equity of educational opportunity and cultural responsive practices to promote each student's academic success and well-being. I'm kind of jumping the gun here, but one of the things you want to make sure that you understand, let alone your staff and students, is what is equity, what is cultural responsiveness. Equity is different from equality, and if you Google equity versus equality and look at images, there's really nice images that show you the difference between the two. Where, and very I'm just very I'm simplifying this, but where equality is the same for all, equity is what you need to be the same. Sometimes we all don't need the same thing, but we all need to be in the same place. So what do you need to be on my level? What do I need to be on your level? That's equity. So we all want to be at the starting place A, but what do you actually need to get there versus what do I need to get there? We all don't need the same thing to get there. I already have a pair of shoes, so I don't need that. So what do I need to get there, and what do you need to get there? So you may need a pair of shoes to start the race. So you get a pair of shoes. Is that equality? No. Equality is we all get a pair of shoes. But if I don't need a pair of shoes to get to the start line, I'm already there, then equity is saying, well, who needs what to get to that same starting line? Cultural responsiveness is all about, now there's different ways to do cultural responsiveness. You can say cultural responsiveness in instruction, cultural responsiveness in the classroom. So it is a little bit different for each, but in a nutshell, cultural responsiveness is putting your students first. And when we're talking about it in the classroom, putting your students first and making sure that the lesson and whatever you're teaching is relevant to them, that their culture is not denied, that their culture is included. And when we say culture, a lot of people automatically think of race and gender. There's many other things to culture. So you're making sure that their culture is validated through the lessons that you're teaching. You're still teaching your curriculum, you're still doing what you need to do, you're just connecting it to the student. Why am I learning this, right? We never want to hear that. So that's what that cultural responsiveness, just very, very simplified, is. So the major question for this is, as a school leader, what practices, processes, and procedure do you use to create that ethical and culturally responsive learning environment? So I kind of talked about some of the dispositions, making sure that they're treated fairly, that they're included, that diversity is an asset, making sure that your student policies address misconduct in unbiased ways, which is a big issue in schools right now, addressing matters of equity, acting with cultural competence. So we kind of talked about most of these. So 3 real-world action examples is to create ways to learn more about the adults and the students while staying professional yourself. A lot of leaders, when we start talking about equity and cultural responsiveness, they're like, oh, that's awesome. Let's put it let's put it out there so the teachers can do it. We also have to do it. We also have to know the adults on our campus and the students on our campus, and we have to connect what we're doing to their lives. So we also have to do that. Ensuring that the faculty and staff understands equality versus equity and cultural responsiveness, and I already talked about that. And creating an equity committee of adults and students. Perception is reality. So having those people that can say, yeah, I think we're good with this, or no, we really need to work on this, is crucial. Standard 4, curriculum instruction and assessment. So this is all about teaching, curriculum, and assessment. Effective educational leaders develop and support intellectual, rigorous, going to talk about that, intellectually rigorous and coherent systems of curriculum, instruction, and assessment to promote each student's academic success and well-being. So the main question for this one is centered on rigorous. As a school leader, how do you ensure teachers are teaching a rigorous curriculum using rigorous instruction? And those are two different things. So with rigorous curriculum, that means that your curriculum is aligned to the state and national standards. It doesn't mean hard or difficult. It means that your curriculum is actually aligned to what you're supposed to be teaching. Rigorous instruction means engagement. Again, it's not difficult, but it's how are you engaging those students? How are you making these lessons matter to them? How are you getting them actually involved in the lesson? So effective leaders, some dispositions. Effective leaders implement coherent systems of curriculum instruction and assessment that, of course, promote your mission and vision and goals. Everything promotes that. If it doesn't, something is either wrong with what you're doing or something is wrong with your mission, vision, and core values. So of course you're promoting that instructional practice that is all student centered, that shows that not only you love learning, but that your students are loving the learning, that is creating that healthy sense of self. That's all of that cultural responsiveness mixed in there. We're also promoting the effective use of technology. If we have it, if we don't have it, we still want to promote the effective use of technology as much as we can. Even if we have one laptop or one iPad, we can do singers, we can still promote that effective use. And we want to use that assessment data, because assessment is part of this. We want to use that assessment data appropriately and making sure, we do so much assessment, but I don't feel like we're really good with aggregating the data. And I don't think we're really good with using the data to create an analysis and create an action, which is what aggregation does. Aggregation is one of those words that we use incorrectly a whole bunch, because if you're going to aggregate data, you're actually taking different data points and you're creating a statistical analysis from that, so where actions can come from that. So for example, I can take student test scores, student lunch status, and absentee rate. And I can take all three and I can mix them all together, and I can say, okay, well, I see that my low income students, my free and reduced students, who miss more than 5 days of school drop 20% in their test scores. So that is aggregating data, and I just created a statistical analysis. From that, I can create an action or an intervention. So I can say, okay, well, when our low-income students hit 3 days of absences, we're going to have to put something into place. They need some more reinforcements, because we know that once they hit 5, they're going to drop 20%, or that's what the data is showing us. So that's how that data can actually be used, aggregated, and lead to an action. So what are 3 real-world examples? You can ensure your faculty understands how to curriculum map with horizontal and vertical alignment. So curriculum mapping is when you're making sure that what you're teaching is actually aligned to the state and national standards, that your curriculum is actually aligned. And when you're horizontal and vertical aligning, horizontal aligning is when you're aligning within your grade level. So you're saying, hey, my students didn't get to standard 3, they didn't understand it, I need to reteach it. What did your students do? Oh, well, my 6th grade students did this. Oh, well, my 6th grade students did this. So you're aligning horizontally. Vertical alignment is when you are going from grade level to grade level or school to school. So that's when you're going to say, hey, 4th grade, how are y'all doing? Because I need to know what I need to maybe modify in 5th grade. So that's your vertical alignment. So making sure that they not only understand all these buzzwords and terms that fly around, but they understand how to do it and why it's important. Just like with your students, teachers have so much on their plates. Please show me why I'm doing this and why it's important and how it's actually going to help me practically. Cultural responsiveness. Ensure that your faculty understands what a rigorous curriculum and instruction are. We talked about that. And offer professional development on technology, data, and assessments. We think that everybody knows everything that we want them to do, but they don't. And we all need help. So much stuff is coming at us as educators. We just need to stop faking the funk. Stop acting like we know all this stuff and all these buzzwords, and let's just have some real training on it, and not just training but job embedded training. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, but job embedded training to where you're showing me how I can actually use this right now. Not, oh, you can use this next week. No, what can I use right now type of training. Standard 5, we're halfway through. Community of care and support for students. This is all about your babies. I don't care how old they are. It's all about your babies. So this says that effective educational leaders cultivate an inclusive, caring, and supportive school community that promotes the academic success and well-being of each student. So the major question would say, as a school leader, what processes and procedures do you enact to ensure that students feel cared for and included? Now you may go, well, I don't like that word feel. I want them to, I want them to be cared for and included. The reason why I put feel and I bolded it and underlined it is because, I know I've already said it twice, perception is reality. Even if your whole school is sitting there going, well, no, we do 50,000 things to make sure all of our students feel cared for. I know they're good. Well, if they don't see it and if they don't feel cared for, guess what? That's your reality. So what are you doing to ensure that students actually feel cared for and included? You may do something and you're like, well, that's really nothing, but that may be the jackpot that made them feel included. So what are you doing to make sure that they feel cared for and included? So of course, we want to make sure that we are building and maintaining a safe and caring and healthy school environment. We want to make sure that all of our systems, all of our support systems, our instructional systems, all of our extracurricular systems, all of them is open and making our students actually feel cared for and trusted and respected and active. We want to promote adult student peer, school community relationships, which is very, very crucial. We kind of already talked about relationships. And we want to reinforce the student engagement and positive student conduct. And of course, your PBIS may be floating to your mind, which I've seen schools that do it really, really well. And So 3 real world examples is to create a student advocacy committee along with a student government. Student government is really nice because they not only get into the politics of it all, but they can make decisions and things like that for their grade level or their school. But I really like that student advocacy committee as well, where the student government is really about almost being like a union for the students. Your student advocacy committee is going to be that group that's going to say, hey, this is how the students are feeling right now. You may not even understand that this is happening, but it's happening. So that's that committee that can really just talk to teachers, talk to whoever's on the committee, the adults on the committee, to let them know this is what's really going on. So for that student advocacy committee, you really want a nice normative group. And a normative group is making sure that everyone on your campus is represented. So you definitely want a nice normative group on there so everybody at least has a voice. Survey your students about the climate and the culture of the school on a continuous basis, and create a plan to share results with adults to improve. And I put that there thinking, somebody's going to say, well, what if we don't need to improve? We always can improve. I don't care if your school is sunny side up. We can always improve. Standard 6, professional capacity of school personnel. So the next two standards are all about your school personnel. This one is about the professional capacity of your school personnel. Effective educational leaders develop the professional capacity and practice of school personnel to promote each student's academic success and well-being. So your major question is, as a school leader, what are you doing on your campus to support and retain your teachers? What are you doing for that? So, of course, effective leaders recruit, hire, support, develop, retain effective and caring teachers. We want to make sure that our teachers feel supported, that they feel like they're continuous learners, that they have that growth mindset where they can make mistakes. And they're expected to make mistakes, because if you're making mistakes, that means you're trying new things. So just having that type of environment where your teachers can learn, they can ask for help, that type of thing. And you're developing all those skills and professional knowledge and helping them develop it. And we kind of already talked about most of this. And delivering the actionable feedback. We'll talk about this on the next slide. And developing the capacity, opportunities, and support for teacher leadership. We're going to talk about that as well. H is something that I don't feel like we support very well in education, and that's promoting the health and mental health and well-being of our teachers and the work-life balance. I've always heard things like, oh, she's such a good teacher. She's here at 5 a.m. and she doesn't leave till 8. Well, that doesn't really mean that she's a good teacher. She may not have internet at home. Like, you don't know why she's there at 5 and leaving at 8. But even if she is every day, you may want to talk about work-life balance and, her well-being. So just, we promote that type of thing, but we really don't think about teachers' health and their well-being and their work-life balance. So that's one of the things that this standard is saying that an effective leader actually needs to think about and promote. So 3 real-world examples. Create a mentor-teacher, buddy-teacher system, especially for your new people or new to campus people. Let them know, like, hey, this is either your mentor teacher who is going to help you and be active, or this is just a buddy teacher. Like, this is the one you can go to vent or anything like that. And you'll be surprised. Of course, people's personalities are going to lead them to who they want to be with, but you'll be surprised how many teachers may be introverts, or how many teachers will never actually reach out and be drowning. So creating that buddy teacher system, if teachers don't want it, they're not going to use it. But for those teachers that may just need somebody to stick their head in and say, hey, how are you doing today? It can really be crucial. Create a job embedded professional development plan with each teacher. Asking each teacher, what can I do to help you learn? What do you want to learn? What do you need to learn? Not just, oh, we're going to create a professional growth plan, which in some states that means something negative, some states it means something positive. But creating, oh, we're going to create, just tell me 3 things of how you want to grow this year, and you put it in a file. No, we're going to create, hey, what are you doing right now? What will you be doing in the curriculum where we can actually do some job embedded PD? And then create an observation and actionable feedback plan. Again, just like with teachers, leaders have so much stuff on their plate where sometimes you're scrambling to do observations at the last minute, and we forget the actionable feedback part, which is really it's not fair to our teachers that we do walkthroughs and we do all this stuff and they never hear anything back. So giving that actionable feedback, and not just, oh, that was good. That's not actionable feedback. Actionable feedback is feedback that I can take action from. So giving that actionable feedback, like, hey, I saw this. You may want to think about it this way, or how can you make that better? That kind of thing is leading to actionable feedback. So, given that actionable feedback is very important. Standard 7, professional community for teachers and staff. It's a little bit different, but still concentrating on your teachers and staff. Effective educational leaders foster a professional community of teachers and other professional staff to promote each student's academic success and well-being. So to break that down into a major question, as a school leader, what processes and procedures are in place to create a growth mindset environment for teachers? And I know growth mindset is one of those buzzy words, but or buzzy, whatever. But if you really look at what a growth mindset is, it's really, really, I'm not going to say revolutionary for teaching, but we just don't do it. We just don't do it. We don't give teachers the time and the space to be innovative and to fail and to come back from it and to learn from it. We don't give them that. So definitely look that up. So some dispositions, and as we go, I think we're on 7. As we go, the dispositions get longer, so I'm really just going to be summarizing, but making sure again that that your staff and your teachers are promoting effective professional development, practice, and student learning, empowering and entrusting your students with leadership roles, establishing professional culture of engagement and commitment. Again, with cultural responsiveness, making sure that your teachers know what they're doing, why they're doing it, why is it important, making it in the now, making it actionable. That's very important. We think, well, that's their job. They're saying, well, no, we're all humans. Make this crucial for me. Let me know why what we're doing is not just another thing you're making me do. So having that type of transparency is really, really important. And we talked about job embedded PD and providing those opportunities for your teachers. So 3 real world actions is to ensure that teachers have collaboration time and purposes for their collaboration. It's not just we're meeting every week to sign in to say that we met. What's the point of that? So not only making sure that I have collaboration time, but giving me a purpose for the collaboration. And hopefully some of that collaboration time is just to be innovative, right? Like come up with 2 new ideas that you can use in the classroom, bring it to the meeting, and let's discuss it, especially if it's a grade level meeting or a content meeting. So just giving them collaboration time, but also giving them a purpose for why we're meeting. Just meeting just to meet doesn't make any sense. It's just a waste of time. Ensure every teacher has a leadership role. Now, what I mean by that is not making sure, they're taking over your job or anything like that, but it's making sure that every teacher has a leadership opportunity. Making sure that, because what we do is we get those star teachers and we kill them. We give them everything. And then we wonder why they're all burnt out and can't teach. We have superstars, we have hidden gems on our campuses, but they're never even given the opportunity. And some of them are introverted and they'll never speak up and say, hey, I can do that. So as a leader, when you're learning your teachers and you're learning your professional environment, giving every teacher some type of leadership opportunity where they can go, oh, I really hated doing that, but you know what? I would like to do that. Giving them those options so you can not only learn about their leadership capabilities, they can learn about their leadership capabilities. And creating committees, professional developments, and idea tanks where that could be part of what I just talked about. So a leadership role can be being on the idea tank of how to solve this problem for the school. So anything like that, just making sure that your teachers have those different opportunities is really crucial. Standard 8, Meaningful engagement of families and community. This is where your stakeholders come in. Effective educational leaders engage families and the community in meaningful, reciprocal, and mutual beneficial ways to promote each student's academic success and well-being. So, what Standard 8 is saying is not only get your stakeholders involved, which is definitely one of the ISIC standards, but is get them involved in a meaningful way. So your major question is, as a school leader, how do you ensure parents, community business leaders, and your surrounding community engage with your campus in meaningful ways? So not just, hey, we need you to come and cut some paper for us, but a meaningful way with your campus. So leaders, effective leaders in this are approachable and accessible. They create and sustain a positive environment. That's one of the things. If I walk in your front office and, nobody looks up, nobody says hello, they're talking and like even if you're in a conversation, you can say, hello, give me a minute. Just something like that. And I mean, you can tell the culture of a school by that front office and by definitely meeting those leaders. So just really keep that in your head. Engaging in open two-way communication, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more. Understanding the value and employing the community's cultural, social, intellectual, and political resources, which is very, very crucial. We're going to talk about that in a second. And advocating for the school's needs, advocating for the students' needs, for your teacher needs, definitely being advocate for your school. So 3 real-world actions. Communicate with the community about their needs and your needs. It cannot be a one-way street anymore. It can't be, I'm going to reach out to Coca-Cola just when I need some drinks for the party. No, you need to communicate with the community about, hey, what do y'all need from us? Hey, Coca-Cola, do y'all have any events going on? Or is there a way that we can help you guys out? So communicating and keeping that two-way communication open. Creating a calendar of community events to participate in. Make sure that your community knows that you are involved in the community. That's even more crucial if you don't live in the community where you are a leader, because you want to make sure that your community understands that you are there for them. You're just not there for the little time that you're there with your students and then you go home and you're done. You want to make sure that they understand that you are a leader in the community. And creating a list of resources available to your stakeholders. What do you have going on that helps your stakeholders? Do you have some parent classes? Maybe you have a class that teaches parents how to use your website, or a class that teaches parents how to do whatever, fill in the blank. Do you have any community classes? It doesn't have to be parents. It can just be, hey, we have a word class. We're going to teach you how to use word processing. Whatever it may be, just what events do you have that can support the community? Standard 9, operations and management. I like to call this the silent standard because most of us don't deal with operations and management until we become leaders. So this is, how are you keeping your campus efficient? How are you keeping your campus safe? It could be anything from the flow of your campus during the bell schedule and lunch. It can be hiring the right people for your culture. It can be looking at the doors, which ones are locked. Should we keep our doors locked? Do we need to have a metal detector? All those kind of things. Anything dealing with operations and management. So effective educational leaders manage school operations and resources to promote each student's, say it with me, academic success and well-being. Major question. As a school leader, what practices, processes, and procedures do you use to create an efficient and effective learning environment? So some of the things you want to think about that an effective leader will do with this standard is you want to absolutely make sure that you are fiscally responsible, physically responsible, that you're using all of your resources ethically and fairly, that you're managing all of your staff resources, scheduling your teachers fairly. all of that type of stuff that are talked about ethics, that you're protecting your staff members from disruption. Hello, Intercom. Employing technology for communication in operations and management, making sure that you are communicating and that you have an actual good communication plan between not only on your campus but between campuses. Knowing all of your state and local laws and all that to make sure that you maintain it. And if you don't, of course, you're not going to know everything, but knowing who you can contact in your district to find out anything that you need to find out. And that leads to J, that maintaining that professional relationship and productive relationship with your central office and your school board. Making sure that you're handling the internal and external politics of your school as well. So 3 real world actions and examples. Develop a reporting system for issues. So if something would happen on your campus, how do teachers report it? If they go and they see that a window is broken, how do they report it? If they see, you know what, every lunch shift we bottleneck right here in the hallway because we don't have a teacher on duty right there, how do they report it? So having a system, this is probably more important on bigger campuses than smaller, but still, how do they report it? And you don't want to count on, well, just walk up and tell me about it, because of course they're busy and you're busy as well. And that window's going to stay broken for 5, months until somebody actually goes, you know what, let me go tell them about this window. So you want to have a way to report it. If your campus is good with technology, that's a really good way to use it. You also want to develop communication plans, not just how do I tell you about the staff meeting, but just various communication plans. How do you get information to your teachers? How do you get important information? Such as, a student dying or anything like that. Like, how do you get that type of information to your teachers to where it's not public and it's not sensationalized, but you want to, you have that emergency information to give them. So developing those different communication plans. What do you do if we're off of school and something happens? So just developing those different communication plans and developing and implementing your plans to handle building and personnel issues. So if teachers are getting into it with each other, what do they do? How do they handle that? If making sure that you have that committee for your crisis plans. I have been at schools where there was no crisis plan. If something would happen, we had no clue what to do. We had fire drills, but we had no clue what to do. We had an active shooter. We had no clue what to do if we needed to shelter in place. So having those crisis plans and not just having them in a nice little binder and they're laminated, like having them where everybody understands what to do. It's not rocket science. So making sure that everybody understands what to do in those different situations. Ta-da! Last standard. Standard 10 is all about school improvement. Effective educational leaders act as agents of continuous improvement to promote, say it with me, each student's academic success and well-being. Woo! The major question with this one is, as a school leader, how do you stay current with research and maintaining open dialogue with all stakeholders, affording yourself an opportunity to benefit from a variety of ideas? There's no way you can do school improvement by yourself. And of course, as a leader, you shouldn't be doing anything by yourself. So some of the things you want to think about is making the school more effective for everyone, using different methods like we just talked about with open communication with stakeholders and doing research for the improvement of your school and promoting readiness and improvement. Engaging others, because of course you cannot do this on your own, so hopefully you have some type of school improvement committee. Employing situational appropriate strategies. So what do we do in certain situations? Accessing and developing the capacity of staff to access the value and of emerging trends. So not only do you need to research and stay up with stuff, but your staff and faculty does as well. And adopting systems to to create to know what do we need to improve. So develop, promote leadership among the teachers and staff. And 3, real world actions. Join and actively participate in education committees. You are the leader, so you should know what is going on. Again, you're not going to know everything, but you should know what's going on with education in your state and on the national level. Create a committee to research current trends in education. Again, you cannot know everything. So creating that committee that's just for that. You're just researching, you're taking our data and you're saying, how can we do better? What is the current trend to make this better? Let's research it. Let's go to singular schools. Let's see what we can do. And that fits hand in hand with a data committee for school-wide issues. So when you're doing, when you're looking at student test scores, when you're looking at climate surveys and all that kind of stuff, all that data, somebody needs to go through it and say, hey, this is what we need to work on. The data says this is what we need to work on. So creating that data committee for school-wide issues is really crucial, because then you can see what do we need to do for school improvement for our campus, not just, well, everybody's working on reading, so we're going to work on reading. Well, maybe reading is not what you need to be working on. Maybe it's culture, maybe it's climate, maybe it's security. So creating that data committee that can look at that is really, really important. So those are your 10 standards. This information came from the National Policy Board for Educational Administration, from their Professional Standards for Educational Leaders 2015. And this is the link to it. So you can click here and get to the bulletin that has all of this information into it. So thank you so much. I appreciate you watching this. If you have any questions, you can always email me at educatoralexander@gmail.com. And of course, you can visit my website to get any other information and to sign up for my newsletter. And that is educatoralexander.com. See you soon.